Hi, I'm Angus Gardner, former Canterbury rugby player and Crusader. Currently, I'm position-specific coach for the Canterbury Rugby Union loose forwards and also for the New Zealand under-20s sides. Today we're going to be looking at a series of drills that will help you develop your players' techniques and skills and understanding around the post-tackle turnover. Before we move on to that, it's important that players understand the rules involving the tackle and understand clearly when a tackle is effected and when it becomes a ruck. Critically also is the attitude of your players. You must always try and encourage them to develop techniques and skills that focus on winning the ball, not simply slowing the ball down to assist the opposition, to assist opposition defences. Finally, the ultimate goal of anyone involved in the post-tackle is to try and stay in the fight as long as possible. By doing so, you will effectively slow the opposition ball down.
During the production of this DVD, the interpretation of the tackled ball rule changed. The tackler must immediately release the tackled player and or the ball, allowing the ball carrier to play the ball, get to his feet before attempting to contest possession, and finally, tacklers who take the space past the ball must not cause obstruction when attempting to regain possession.
Okay, so the first activity we've got today is a couple of warm-up drills. These are trying to encourage players to fight for possession, but also some techniques in and around making sure that when you do fight for possession, you bring the tackle or the ball as close to you as possible. First one's a one-arm mauling activity, so if you can put one hand behind your back, okay, and the other, and then on my whistle you're going to have to try and win the ball. So you ready? Okay, one more time. Okay, when you have your players start in this position, talk to them about strength of technique. What we want to do is make sure that when we're contesting for position on the ground, we need to get as close to the ball as possible. So this time, fellas, when I blow the whistle, I want you to step and bring your shoulders together. Yep, like that. Okay, you ready? Okay, come back one more time. Okay, you ready? Okay, good. This time, what I want you to do is both step nice and close and get really strong over the ball. Okay, in this drill here, you want to make sure you encourage or talk about getting shoulders under shoulders. So the person that can get his shoulders down lowest is more likely to win the contest. Okay, you ready, guys? Take the strain. Okay, this time I want to make a real good battle. So get yourself nice and tight. You ready? Okay, good work, guys. Next activity is you have one person lying on the ground holding the ball. Get the second person to come in and get in a strong ball winning position, like so, and he has to try and wrestle the ball off the person on the ground. The person on the ground is not to release the ball. So you ready? Go. Sit. Okay, finally another activity you can use is just simply mauling the ball one-on-one with two hands. So in this instance here, you're going to get the player to come into another player who's got possession, is holding it nice and tight. Okay, and all he's got to do is simply try and maul the ball off him. So you ready? Go. Good. Okay, so that ends the first point about trying to fight for the ball. Just remember, if you can get one hand on it, you can make it into a competition. There's a whole variety of activities you can work on based on those three simple drills. I challenge you to try and come up with some of your own. Second point we're going to look at today is the concept of keeping alive or keeping in the game. Obviously, if you've been involved in the tackle, it's really important that you get to your feet. If you're out off your feet, you're out of the game. So we've got an activity here that I'm going to show you and some derivatives of it that'll hopefully encourage the players to develop good technique but also get to their feet quickly. Okay, so what I've got here is a hit shield. I've got a player lying on the ground prone. On my whistle, I'm going to ask him to get to his feet as quickly as possible and be in a strong ball winning position. You ready? Go. All right, back down. All right, back down. outside. Go. Go. What you'll find in this drill is some players will struggle with their outside foot. So in that instance here, I'm going to talk to Tom about driving his knee forward. So this time what I want you to do is get that same position. Yep. When I blow my whistle, think about your right knee driving to your left shoulder. Okay. Ready? Good, stop there. Okay, another thing you can talk to him about is the point of rotation. In this instance here, if I have Tom get back down on the crash pad, obviously he wants to get to his feet as quickly as possible, so he needs to stay as low as possible, but also he needs to make sure that he's rotating around the point of the tackle as quickly as possible. So this time what you want to do is make sure your feet are really, really quick. Okay, so it's fast feet and drive that right knee to the outside, to the inside shoulder. Good. Okay, one more time. Go. Good. Also, by the virtue of the fact that the tackler is the closest person to the ball and essentially winning the contest in the post tackle is a race to the ball, you want to encourage or talk to your players about the height of their ass when they get up off the ground. So in this instance here, I'm going to put my hand nice and low and make sure the player doesn't touch my hand with his bum as he goes through. So you ready? Yeah. Good. Okay, one more time. Try and keep nice and low. Good. Okay, progression from this is obviously introducing the ball. In this instance here, I'm going to ask Matt just to get onto his feet and win the ball. Ready? Good. Okay. You ready? Good. Good. The next thing that you want to try and encourage or talk about with your players in this instance here is just fighting for the space past the ball. So whilst they're ball focused, what they want to do is make sure that when they're contesting for the ball, if you can imagine the space just past here, if they fight for that space there, they'll win the ball as a natural consequence. So again, we'll look at that activity and look at what Thomas is doing around the space past the ball. Good. Okay, an extension from that is to really emphasise the need to fight for that space past the ball is obviously to take the ball a wee bit further away from the person contesting for it. You ready, Matt? Good. So there's a couple of drills based on staying in the game. Obviously, if you are the person who's affected the tackle, you're the closest to the ball. If you can get to your feet quickly and effectively, then you're in the game. Importantly, just encourage your players when you're doing those drills to think about the space past the ball as well as winning the contest for the ball. Also encourage them to make sure that they're getting to their feet in a dynamic, strong position. And finally, just make sure that you're encouraging them to use correct technique and they're not resting their hands on the ground to support their own body weight when contesting for possession. Following on from that last drill, we're going to now look at a couple of activities based around, again, getting to your feet quickly, but more specifically around the technique of getting and shrinking over the ball so you become a really difficult target to move for the oppositions who are trying to clean you out. Go. Good. Okay, that's good. Sometimes what you'll do in this instance here is you'll get players that might flop in the tackle. I'll give you an example of this. By flopping, it means that their legs aren't continuing through the tackle, so it's really important that you encourage the players to keep their legs alive. So if we have a look at one now, this time chase your legs through. So use that momentum. You ready? Go. So it's really important that they are almost starting to get to their feet once that tackle's been effected, as opposed to we saw in the previous example where the player flopped and then lay still. What we want to do now is look more closely at the skill or the techniques around once the player's made that tackle and getting into that strong ball winning position. So I'm going to ask Poffy just to make that tackle on the tackle bag again, and then just remain stationary so we can talk a little bit around the techniques. Okay. Here what we want to try and encourage the players to do is to present to the opposition who would be coming through here looking to clean out as little surface area to clean out as possible. As you can see right at the moment, Poffy's got his head up, and he's also got opportunities for people to clean out by hooking through under here. So what I want you to do is just stand up for a minute, Poffy. First thing I want you to do is bring your shoulders to your ears, put your chin to your chest. Okay, now get back into that strong ball winning position. This time the same sort of thing as I want you to bring your shoulders over around and lock them right up, elbows in nice and tight. So bring your elbows in nice and tight. So here is if you put your chin to your chest and tuck it right down, tuck it right in under. Okay. In this instance here it's presenting a slightly more difficult target, and players have to be really accurate, and also most critically this is the height that they now have to get their shoulders under. So it's really important you talk to your players about making sure that they get themselves nice and strong and trying to shrink over the ball. Once you've got the player in a really strong position, particularly around his upper body and presenting some really narrow targets for the opposition to clean out, we also need to look at the stability that they're developing through their legs. So we can see in this instance here, if he just brings his head in a little bit closer to his chest, he's actually in a relatively strong position, but we need to look a little bit more at what his legs are doing here. If I get Poffy to come in through and just try and roll him out, we can see he's a lot stronger there and able to live a lot longer in that contest. So it's really important when you're talking to your players. It's a subtle technique, it's about tensing your lower body, but the cue you can use is just locking your anchors in. It doesn't mean resting your knees onto the tackle bag, it just simply means tensing them up and digging them in as if you were riding a horse. Okay, we're going to just look at an activity that you can use that encourages some of those principles we've been looking at, particularly around getting strong over the ball and using your legs for stability and getting your anchors in. Are you ready? Go. Same thing again, a little bit more contact. Okay. Ready? Go. Good. Good. What you want to make sure you see in this activity is the player implementing all those things we've just talked about. Legs are locked in here, anchors are in, he's in that strong position, little target for the opposition to clean out, and it's difficult for them to get shoulders under shoulders. Importantly, a key indicator of that is when the contact comes, the bag will actually get moved back with him. Progression from this is obviously to bring the ball in. So the same activity, this time once the tackle is made, I'm going to sneak in and try and wedge the ball in a position where Poffy can have a go at winning it. Okay, you ready? Go. That's good. Good. Unfortunately, in every you can't win every situation and turn over the ball cleanly by yourself. Sometimes when the opposition contacts you, it becomes a ruck. In those instances there, the important thing is to remember that you've got to try and win the space or win the meter. Going to do the same activity, but in this drill, once the player's been contacted by the person on the hit shield, he's going to give up the fight for possession and try and win the meter. Right, hands away! Good, good. Yeah, go. Right, hands away! In another situation, what we're trying to look here in this activity is ways and strategies in which the player can just live a little bit longer in that space and make it difficult for the opposition to continue fighting for the ball. Often now is what we have when opposition are confronted with a player that's strong over the ball, they'll come in and try and roll him out. What a player can do to negate that is, as he's being twisted, is actually to step around into that instance there. That makes that technique of cleaning out ineffectual and allows him to live a little bit longer in that space, make it more difficult for the ball to be recycled quickly, or provide another opportunity for a second take at the ball. Okay, in that last set of activities, we're looking more specifically at what the player was doing back on his feet. Key point are making sure that they keep themselves as low and as tight and as strong around the ball as possible. To help with that is talk about lifting their shoulders up to their ears, bring their chin to their chest, and trying to think about shrinking over the ball. Most importantly though, players must learn to support their own body weight. A technique that can help with that is using the term anchoring yourself, or getting your anchors in. That just simply means bringing your knees in over the tackled player and using that to make sure that you're nice and strong and stable. On top of that, we looked at a couple of activities or a couple of techniques to try and live a little bit longer in the fight when you're being cleaned out by the opposition. Finally, good luck with all that. I hope you find something useful and relative. Most importantly, challenge you to come up with your own drills and extensions of the ones that have been shown in this DVD and try and implement them into some sort of minor games to bring in a fun element.